Hey, what's up, everyone? So I wanted to, before I upload all the footage from Yamaha ChampSchool in Las Vegas, I wanted to do a quick uh, overview and almost a testimonial. They didn't ask me to do this, but I feel really compelled to share some of the knowledge as well as just my thoughts on the 2-day program. And this is all coming from a beginner level rider. I've only been riding for 3.5 to 4 years. So keep that in mind. If you've been riding, on track days for 10 plus years, like this might not be relevant, but I wanted to share my honest opinion about this time investment and the money investment in Champ School, and why I think you guys all who are watching this, if you know someone that you love, that you care about, that rides motorcycles, I urge you guys to at least look into Yamaha Champions Riding School. They have a ton of online content, as well as a special right now for the rest of 2022, which is only a few days left. They have something called Champ U. So if you go to champu.com, this is their online curriculum. It's almost like a private YouTube channel for them, but it has all of their core curriculum really well laid out. There are at least 40 videos with 40 quizzes so that you can assess yourself, as well as 30 drills that you can practice at your own pace. But I want to preface and say, what you see here on this video testimonial, or the dozens of other videos you'll see on YouTube reviewing the school, it really doesn't do it justice. Nothing beats getting out there with the world-class instructors and getting hands-on experience with your motorcycle or renting one of theirs. So when you take theory into actual application on the road, on the racetrack, in an environment where it's safe, there's an ambulance right there off the track just in case anything were to go awry. It's really a phenomenal 2-day school. I'm going to try to keep this under 10 minutes, but I'll kind of cover overarching architecture of the school, of the curriculum, and even some of the cost. So a couple of key takeaways that I've starred on my notebook. This is the book that they'll give you at the school that you fill in during the classroom time. And I've taken some notes also after the class for what I learned on track, because they also take the group on the racetrack. You could all be like in a group at, let's say, turn 5, and the instructor will come around and show you what is the right way and the right technique versus the wrong technique. But if you look at the top of my book, it says umbrella of direction, ride the bike for direction. That's a core component of their curriculum, and it'll come up quite a bit during this book. Another great tool that they teach is, before I ride, I have a plan. So they talk a lot about pro racers, Valentino Rossi, and many others who have a riding ritual or a mantra. So it could be something as simple as stay focused. Some people will put like masking tape or painter's tape on their tank and just write it, just to stay focused and dial into the ride. I thought that was great. Another key component is braking, trail braking specifically, and being very fine with your brake controls, whether it's the first 5% or the last 5%. And I'm using this as the brake lever and these two fingers pulling on the brake. Oftentimes what they taught us was that the fastest riders are not the fastest mid-corner. The fastest riders and the safest riders are the ones that can get to full open throttle before anyone else. It's not so important how fast you're going mid-corner. Obviously, if you're racing professionally for money and points, it is important. But even amongst racers, the ones who can get to full wide open throttle first not necessarily to start opening the throttle, are usually the ones that win races consistently. Just kind of opening the book real quick. I'm going to kind of skim through this. I know I'm pressed for time here. Another key element, which was kind of like an aha moment, and you'll see, because on day 2, I actually crashed. And subscribe to the channel, and I promise I'll upload the footage, the full unedited footage, all the embarrassing talking that I do in my helmet. You don't want to miss that. But it's load the tire before you work the tire. So for beginners, this might not be so common sense, because for me, I'm used to being in a car, and I think I'm a pretty good driver, but in a car, it weighs 4,000 pounds, and you have 4 tires all touching the pavement, and the weight of the car is actually giving you the load that you need for grip. On a motorcycle, you may weigh 100 to 200 pounds. The motorcycle itself weighs 400 pounds, and depending on the speeds you're doing and the conditions of the road, that weight may not be enough to load the tire for optimal grip. So load the tire before you work the tire. That's another one key takeaways from the 2 days. On the track, it was also important to develop a 1-point hand. What that means is, if this is the brake lever or the throttle, right, either one, you want to be able to, on your bike, to learn what that 1% or 1 point of brake is. The reason why this is important is you're playing with a finite sum of grip. So if this is your tire and it's straight up and down, you have 100 points of grip. But as the tire leans over, you're losing points of grip. And it's synonymous with how many points of braking or throttle you can use. So they want you to really practice and get good with that 1% hand or 1-point hand, and also to really practice the first 5% and the last 5% of your brake lever and that friction, as well as your accelerator or throttle application. In the street, you always want to cover your brakes. I think the only situation where you're not covering the brakes is if you're on a racetrack and you're going down, 1 mile straightaway, to the finish line, and you're just wide open throttle, and you're racing basically. But otherwise, you should always be covering your brakes. So just skipping through, I can't do any of this justice on a slide and on a YouTube video. Another aha moment. The slowest part of the corner is not always the tip-in. So another thing that we practice quite a bit during the 2 days is lighter and longer on the brakes. So you don't want to always do 100% of your braking before the tip-in, because you want to carry some speed and momentum to compress the forks, the front forks, and to have load on your front tire so that you're optimally gripping, so you can complete the turn. 7 reasons why we crash: cold tires, lack of focus or loss of focus, abruptness, rushing corner entries, repeating mistakes, overconfidence, and not adjusting to changing situations. Another good tip that I'll share is, if you're on a racetrack or even on the street and you feel like you're being very heavy on the handlebars, just exhale. This was relevant on the track because I was so focused on trail braking, because I'm not used to it. I was forgetting to downshift, I was forgetting to breathe, and you can see me on the laps where I'm just so heavy-handed on the handlebars, the rear end was twitching. So if you exhale before corner entry, it will force your body to relax, and you can focus on steering with your body and legs and not your wrists. So I'm going to skip kind of over this. I only have a minute left before this 10-minute marker is over. This was the racetrack. It was about 2.4 miles, 12 turns. Course of 2 days, I did 50 to 60 laps. And I'm going to talk a little about the ROI of this investment. So if I go back to the last page here, I've actually written down the cost and investment of the school. The 2-day ChampSchool was $2,200. The Yamaha R7 rental was $600 for both days. You can also rent gear, but I had my helmet, I had a one-piece race suit because I wanted to make that investment to continually go back to the track. Flight and hotel from the East Coast to Las Vegas was about $800 round trip, but I was also there for business, so that subsidized the cost. So total investment was $3,800. Unfortunately, on day 2, I did have a crash on their Yamaha R7. The repair bill was $856, but I would still go and do this all over again. When you think about the $3,800 investment for travel and board and the school itself, where else can you get instruction from Nick Einosh, Chris Paris, Kyle Weinman, Cody Weinman, Michael Haynow? There's just so much professional advice and experience. Think of it like MotoGP hardware from Yamaha or Kawasaki or Ducati trickling down to the dealership. This is kind of like the same thing, but knowledge and software for the engineer or the rider, right? So all of your instructors at Champ School are learning from championship riders, and that knowledge is going through them into you, whether you're riding on the street or the track. I'm coming at this from a very beginner level, but through my own eyes, I witnessed very fast riders who were going 140 down the straightaway on day 1 improve their technique and lap times into day 2. So they're well beyond my skill level, but they were able to still wring out that extra, 5-10% they need to become a better rider. And for me, I've only been riding for 4 years. I probably have a little bit of bad habits and a lot of lack of knowledge. Yamaha Champ School set me up for a much longer runway of safer and faster riding because they're building those fundamentals into my riding skills. My plan is in the future to do Champ Grad. The instructor to class student ratio is 2-to-1 for Champ Grad. For the 2-day Champ School, it's 4-to-1. It's just unbelievable. I never felt unsafe, despite the fact that I had the misfortune of crashing. It was such an organized instruction of the 2 days. I urge you to make this investment. The $2,200 is going to set you up for life of riding, safer and faster and better and more consistently. So another thing about the rental, so this is the actual part list of everything that I pretty much broke on the Yamaha R7. The bike was unbelievable. Great bike. Obviously, more bike than I can handle. But the total bill was $856. Most of it was cosmetic. It was like panels on the exterior, crankcase cover, and I bent the clutch and the mirror assembly. But think about this. I'm not saying you should go to the class and crash, but if I had brought my Ducati Monster, this same incident would have probably cost me, with labor, $3,000 easy. And in addition, my day would have been over. So it happened on day 2 because of cold tires on lap, like my first morning lap, like around 9 o'clock. So if it was my bike, I would have been out of luck. My day would have been over. But because this was a Yamaha Champ School rental, they have parts and they have a partnership with Yamaha Factory. So they were able to get me out on a second bike within 15 minutes. Obviously, you have to have some mental fortitude and be able to bounce back from this very embarrassing accident, right? When you fall off a bike, you have adrenaline rushing through you, what went wrong. But if you can get over the psychological, they will be ready to get you out on the track confidently. And I never felt unsafe. And within 30 minutes of me going out on the second bike, Ryan from Pulsar Motorsport had already fixed the bike that I had crashed. So I jumped back on the initial bike and completed my day 2. So when you take a look at this complete investment, this is a no-brainer. This is actually cheap for the value that you get. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's 15 minutes long, but I urge you, whether you're a beginner rider that just got your license after the MSF course, or even if you think you're hot shit and you're like, in C group at track days or whatever, the fast group in track days, and you just think you can't get better, I promise you, if you go to this school, you're gonna improve your lap times and reduce your risk. So thank you for watching. Check out Yamaha ChampSchool. They have 20 plus events in 2022. There's really no excuse not to do this. And because they have so many cities, another benefit is not only can you rent a motorcycle, but you can fly to multiple tracks and not have to trailer your bike and drive cross country. I think I met someone named Frank in Las Vegas. He drove from North Carolina with his Street Fighter V4S. God bless him, but I can't do that. It's just too long of a drive. I don't even have a tow hitch. But just take a look at Yamaha ChampSchool. Save up if you need to, but make 2022 the year you invest in yourself and become a better rider. Thanks a lot, and have a great happy holiday.